If anything were to typify the dark age of comic books, it would be the sheer proliferation of anti-heroes. The humble anti-hero, as they're known today, can often be seen brandishing weapons your typical do-gooder would never be caught dead with. They also tend to have a particularly loose moral compass, finding death nowhere near as objectionable as others in the superhero community, and, as a result, often find themselves in direct competition with them too. The fact remains that you'd probably never want to encounter these characters, however sympathetic they may be in certain moments. They're trained killers, expert conmen, and though they don't have a license to kill, that's never exactly stopped them before. So, given that we've laid the groundwork, I'm Edgelord Patterson from What Culture, and here are 10 human comic book anti-heroes you wouldn't want to mess with. Number 10, Silver Sable. Silver Sable is currently busy making waves on the PS4 with Insomniac's Spider-Man, which he's been fostering a reputation for intensity long before. Introduced in Amazing Spider-Man number 265, Silver Sable quickly established herself as a no-nonsense mercenary willing to do whatever to get the job done. This immediately put her at odds with others in the superhero community, most notably Spider-Man, but over time the pair have developed into close allies, with Sable utilizing her mercenary group, the Wild Pack, to help Spidey out on a few occasions. Proficient in knives, firearms, and hand-to-hand combat, she's a modern mercenary for a modern environment, and one you definitely wouldn't want to cross. Number 9, Jonah Hex. Jonah Hex is one of my personal favourite comic book heroes and is one of the last great Western comic book characters, and coming from the 19th century, it's perhaps understandable as to why his style of crime fighting isn't one to be taken lightly. An old lawman, bounty hunter, and just general gunslinger, Jonah Hex prowls the United States all the way up to the beginning of the 20th century, even briefly stopping in Gotham just as it was beginning to balloon in size and population. No matter his whereabouts though, one thing that you can be certain of is that he'll be carrying a Smith & Wesson, a buttload of other firearms, and the same grisly scar that makes him such an imposing figure to begin with. Jonah's endured the worst the Old West has had to offer since breaking ranks with the Confederacy during the Civil War, and although he isn't a particularly sympathetic character in most depictions, as far as Clint Eastwood-esque bounty killers go, he's definitely more High Plains drifter than Man with No Name. There's no denying that he gets the job done, no matter how grisly that job may be. Number 8, John Constantine. John Constantine exemplifies everything there is to love about Vertigo, but as opposed to other anti-heroes, this one's actually very sympathetic. Constantine, pronounced Constantine, is from Liverpool just like yours truly, and is an expert conman, magician, and occult specialist. Basically, if you cross him, you're just as likely to wind up in the Mersey as you are to be cursed with a bothersome spirit for the rest of your existence. That hasn't hurt his standing amongst the mainstream though. Today, John has been the subject of a movie starring Keanu I Know Where the Bastard Sleeps Reeves, an unfortunately cancelled TV show, and has since been integrated into the main DC universe, even joining the dark version of the Justice League formed specifically to face demonic threats. Number 7, Scarlet Spider. Of all the clones to have emerged in the wake of the bonkers Clone Saga event from the 90s, Kane is perhaps the most misunderstood. That's partially because, throughout the years, no one at Marvel has really known what to do with him. That was until he was rebranded as a new Scarlet Spider in 2011 in a series written by Christopher Yost. There, Kane Parker was relocated from New York to Texas. New York does admittedly have a lot of spiders in it already, took on an awesome-looking red and black outfit, and set about dealing justice in a decidedly more heroic way than he previously did. It's also worth noting that, while Kane dialed back his brutal methods during this period, his past as a villain was still called into question and dominated his legacy too. The idea of a more vengeful Spider-Man isn't a particularly new one, but this one was certainly one of the more compelling. It reminded readers that, while Ben Reilly is undoubtedly the most famous Parker clone, he definitely isn't the most fearsome. Number 6, Moon Knight. Over the last few years, Doug Munch and Don Perlin's Moon Knight has, quite surprisingly, ballooned in popularity. What was once an ersatz Batman has become the go-to destination for some of Marvel's most compelling stories, with Mark Spector's multiple personalities making him one of the most interesting of all the New York anti-heroes. Blessed, or cursed, by a constantly changing relationship with the Egyptian moon god Khonshu, Mark Spector takes to the streets of New York and takes on crime in brutal fashion. His methods have earned him the ire of many Marvel heroes, but the violent nature of his comic is perhaps best exemplified by his recurring rivalry with the villain known as Bushman. It was Bushman's violent attack on Spectre that led him to becoming Moon Knight in the first place, and with most of their battles resulting in horrific injuries for either character, it's one not to be taken lightly either. Number 5. DREDD. The world of 2000 AD is one of the most iconic the medium has ever seen, and right at its center is Judge Dredd. Created by John Wagner, Carlos Esquerra, and Pat Mills, Dredd patrols the streets of Mega City 1 with a license to arrest, convict, and execute. This effectively makes him judge, jury, and executioner, a power made even worse by the fact that, in the comics, you never see his face. It's what makes the character of Dredd so unnerving to begin with, even if he does boast a brilliant, if not slightly OTT, aesthetic, and his fearsome nature is reflected by the villains he takes on. There are countless figures in the 2000 AD world that have managed to match Dredd's no-nonsense approach to law enforcement, including Judge Death, and about half a dozen other evil versions of the judges out there, which yes, does include Sylvester Stallone's. I am the law. Number 4. Red Hood. The decision to bring Jason Todd back from the dead in 2005's Under the Hood was divisive, to say the very least. Todd's demise at the hands of the Joker during a death in the family was such an infamous, albeit iconic moment in Batman's history, and his status as one of the few comic book characters who didn't actually get a resurrection defined one of the medium's most frustrating tropes. That being said, Todd isn't exactly short of admirers. After a rocky re-emergence into mainstream continuity where his personality amounted to little else other than DC's Punisher, Jason has managed to reintegrate himself back into the Bat family's good graces, even adorning his outfit with a bat symbol of his own, although the use of firearms manages to invoke the ire of the Caped Crusader frequently. Either way, while Todd has since managed to dial down the most brutal elements of his crime fighting, he's still the last member of the Bat family you'd ever want to cross. Perfectly trained in mixed martial arts, firearms, and a litany of various handheld weapons, Jason is one of Gotham's, and the DC Universe's, most lethal outlaws. Number 3. Venom. Although the Clintar itself is extraterrestrial in origin, those who have become Venom are still human. Given recent retcons surrounding the development of the symbiote 2, there's an argument to be made that, although the symbiote was once a corrupting force, it's ultimately the host that bears the most influence, and by definition, the most responsibility. In the case of Eddie Brock and later Flash Thompson, that influence manifested under morally ambiguous terms. Brock himself did of course start out as one of Spider-Man's greatest adversaries, but over time he cemented himself as an anti-hero through and through, even becoming a symbiote hunter in his later years as the entity known as Anti-Venom, before rebonding with the suit and becoming Venom once again, in all those lovely fan arts you keep seeing over on Twitter. It was Lethal Protector where Venom first had a change of heart though, as Brock faced off against the villainous Life Foundation to ensure the destruction of several symbiote clones. After that, the next true anti-hero to use the Venom symbiote was Flash Thompson, who eventually found himself fighting alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy in space. Still, while Venom himself is very much a hero these days, no one wants to cross paths with him. That tongue signals bad things, folks. Bad, slithery things. Number 2. Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller is one of DC's most complex characters, and definitely a figure you wouldn't want to mess with, whether you're a hero, a villain, or just a plain old innocent bystander. The handler of Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad, Waller has to manipulate the worst into doing something good. Only sometimes that good thing isn't really all that good in the first place. This positions the character in a somewhat awkward grey area, as her intentions can vary from wanting to safeguard the security of the nation, itself neither an inherently good nor inherently bad thing, to maintaining the squad at all costs. Regardless, one thing that can't be denied is that Waller herself is a formidable operator, and one who's managed to give Batman a good run for his money in the shower of all places. Number 1. Punisher. Out of all the anti-heroes out there, human or otherwise, none are more infamous than Frank Castle. Since his family was slain by the mob all those years ago, the Vietnam vet has made it his #1 priority in life to punish those who break the law. This lethal approach to crime fighting initially saw the character introduced as a Spider-Man villain, but over time, Frank has since become an anti-hero of sorts, causing controversy at every turn. While there's no denying that the Punisher himself is something of a divisive character in the Marvel mythos, there's also no denying that he's featured in some of the company's greatest ever stories. Garth Ennis and the late, great Steve Dillon embarked on a memorable Max title for Marvel post-2000, but there are countless other comics that have featured the gun-toting vigilante that have gone on to reach critical acclaim too. Indeed, taking into account his methods, it's no surprise that Frank has invoked the ire of as many villains as he has heroes. He's an outlier, an Avenger only in the most brutal sense, and one who ghosts along the peripheries of the Marvel Universe. He's also a uniquely tragic figure, and while that doesn't excuse his approach to crime fighting, there's no doubting that this anti-hero has made one heck of an impression since its introduction all the way back in 1974.